Have you ever spent your money renovating a rented apartment, maybe by fixing the leaking roofs, repainting the walls, or even rebuilding the kitchen, only for your landlord to come shortly after and tell you who asked you to do this, or even worse, serve you a notice to quit on the ground of alteration of his property? This is quite disturbing, right? Because it has happened more often than you think. And the big question is, can a tenant legally renovate or improve a rented apartment in Nigeria without the consent or approval of the landlord? This is what you get to learn in this video, because acting on assumption can actually cost you a lot more than paint and cement. Before we talk about renovations, let's quickly remember this. When you rent a property in Nigeria, what you are paying for is the right to use and occupy the property, not ownership of it. So the landlord remains the owner of the property. And under Nigerian tenancy law, the tenant's rights are actually limited to undisturbed use and enjoyment of the property, and not alterations and modifications of the structure of that property. So my dear, while it is still your home under the tenancy, the landlord, under Nigerian law, the landlord remains the owner of that property. Using Lagos as an example, under the Lagos State Tenancy Law, particularly Section 7 and 8, a tenant is actually not allowed to carry out major renovations or structural alterations on a property without the written consent of the landlord. What did I say? The consent, the approval must be in writing. It must be put in black and white, printed and sent to you. The fact that your landlord instructed you, permitted you to carry out renovations through WhatsApp, on WhatsApp, is actually not enough. It must be in writing. The permission, the go ahead, must be in writing. So what do I mean by structural alterations? The structural alterations can actually be you expanding the building or creating more rooms, you changing the roofing, the windows, and then the floor design, you converting the store in the property into kitchen. So if you do any of this without the consent, the written consent of the landlord, you are technically in breach of the tenancy agreement. So if the work is going to change the structure of the property, my dear, get the written permission of the landlord. It is actually very, very important. Some tenants actually assume that once they spend money improving or renovating a rented apartment, they can deduct the cost from their rent or automatically get a refund from the landlord. Well, I'm so sorry to disappoint you. Under Nigerian law, you cannot claim reimbursement or compensation for an unauthorized renovation, even if you spend millions. Yes, some tenants actually spend millions renovating a rented apartment to their taste, knowing fully